The text came through 3 weeks before Thanksgiving. My father, as brief and cold as ever. We're only having your sister's family this year. No explanation. No apology. Just a statement. I stared at my phone for maybe 10 seconds before typing back. Enjoy yourselves. Then I set it down on the wooden table beside me. I was sitting on the wraparound porch of my newly purchased $9 million ranch in Montana, watching the sun paint the mountains gold. My family had no idea this place existed. They thought I was still struggling. They had no idea what I'd built, and they were about to find out the hard way. I didn't respond to my father again that day. What was there to say? This was becoming a pattern, and I was tired of pretending it didn't hurt. My name is Domingo, and for 33 years, I've been the disappointing son in a family that values appearances above everything else. My sister Amanda married a doctor named Brandon 12 years ago. They have 3 kids who play soccer and take piano lessons. They live in a colonial-style house in our hometown in Ohio, the kind with a perfect lawn and a 2-car garage. Amanda hosts book clubs and volunteers at the elementary school. She's everything my parents wanted in a child. I left Ohio 8 years ago with nothing but a business degree and an idea. I moved to Seattle, slept on a friend's couch for 6 months, and started building a software company that helped small businesses manage their inventory. It was unglamorous work. My parents asked about it once, then never mentioned it again. When I told them the company was growing, my mother changed the subject to Amanda's new kitchen renovation. 3 years ago, the company started taking off. 2 years ago, we had contracts with 1,500 businesses across the country. Last year, a tech giant bought us out for $43 million. After taxes and paying my early investors, I walked away with $28 million. I didn't tell my family. Not because I was hiding it, but because they never asked. My father would call maybe twice a year, always with the same questions. Was I still doing that computer thing? Was I thinking about coming home? Did I know Amanda's son made honor roll? The ranch I was sitting on represented everything I'd dreamed about as a kid growing up in suburban Ohio. 700 acres of Montana wilderness, a main house with 5 bedrooms, a guest house with 4 more. Stables I planned to fill with horses, and views that made my chest ache. I'd closed on it 6 weeks ago. My family didn't know because I hadn't told them yet. I was planning to, eventually. But now, staring at that text from my father, I felt something shift inside me. This was the 3rd Thanksgiving in a row I'd been deprioritized. 2 years ago, they'd said the gathering would be small. Last year, they'd claimed Amanda's in-laws needed to be the focus. Now this. Just Amanda's family. Not me. I decided right then. I'd host my own Thanksgiving. The idea grew as I sat there. I'd invite people, make it special, show my family I didn't need their table. But who would I invite? I had friends in Seattle, sure, but most of them had their own family obligations. I started thinking about extended family, cousins I hadn't seen in years, aunts and uncles who used to come to holidays when I was young but somehow stopped appearing. That's when I called my cousin Eric. Eric was 41, lived in Denver, worked in construction. We'd been close when I was in high school, but life and distance had pulled us apart. The phone rang 4 times before he picked up. Domingo? That really you? It's me. How are you doing? We caught up for maybe 10 minutes. He asked about my life. I kept it vague, said I was doing well, living in Montana now. Then I asked him about Thanksgiving. You going to Ohio this year? There was a long pause. I haven't been to a family Thanksgiving in 5 years. What? Why not? Another pause. Longer this time. You really don't know? Know what? Eric sighed. And what came out next made my blood run cold. He told me that after his divorce 5 years ago, my parents had taken his ex-wife's side. Not because they were particularly close to her, but because her family had money and social connections my parents wanted to maintain. They'd invited her to Thanksgivings and Christmas gatherings. They'd excluded him. When he'd confronted my father about it, Dad had said something about not wanting to make things awkward and respecting everyone's comfort. It wasn't just me, Eric continued. You remember Aunt Patricia? I did. My father's sister. She'd always been warm and funny, brought the best desserts to every gathering. She remarried 7 years ago. Guy named Tom, works as a plumber. Makes good money, actually. But it's blue-collar work. Mom and Dad stopped inviting her. Said the family was getting too big, needed to keep things intimate. But Amanda's in-laws always made the cut. My hand was gripping the phone so hard my knuckles went white. Who else? Uncle Raymond. Remember him? Our grandfather's brother. He'd been a banker, retired about 8 years ago. Sold his big house, bought an RV, started traveling. Dad said he became boring after retirement. No interesting stories. So he stopped getting invitations. I felt sick. Eric, I had no idea. Yeah, well, they're good at keeping things quiet. I only found out about Patricia and Raymond by accident. Started asking around. Turns out there's a whole group of us who got cut out. We talked for another 20 minutes. Eric gave me names. Aunt Patricia. Uncle Raymond. My cousin Jessica, who came out as gay 4 years ago and suddenly stopped being included. Great Uncle Martin, my grandfather's brother, who'd been put in a nursing home 3 years ago and apparently hadn't had a visitor since. By the time I hung up, I wasn't just hurt. I was furious. Not for myself, but for all of them. My family hadn't just rejected me. They'd systematically cut out anyone who didn't serve their perfect image, their social climbing agenda. I looked out at the Montana mountains, at this beautiful property I'd built with my own success, and I made a decision. I was going to gather every single person my parents had thrown away, and we were going to have the best Thanksgiving any of us had ever experienced. The next week became a mission. I started with Aunt Patricia. I found her number through an old contact list and called her on a Tuesday evening. Hello? Aunt Patricia? It's Domingo. Silence. Then, quietly. Domingo? Charles and Susan's son? Yes. I know it's been a long time. Her voice cracked. Sweetie, it's been 7 years. I thought everyone had forgotten about me. We talked for an hour. She told me everything. How my mother had called her after her wedding to Tom and said the family was disappointed in her choices. How she'd tried to reconcile. Sent Christmas cards, called on birthdays. How Amanda had blocked her number after she'd asked to see her nieces and nephews. How my father had told her she wasn't welcome at family events anymore because things had changed. When I told her I was hosting Thanksgiving at my ranch in Montana, she started crying. Real, gut-wrenching sobs. You want me there? I want you there more than anything. I'll come. Tom and I will both come. Thank you, Domingo. You have no idea what this means. Next was Uncle Raymond. It took me 2 days to find his current number. He was 65 now, living in Arizona in a modest apartment after selling everything to travel. His voice was gruff when he answered. Who's this? Uncle Raymond? It's Domingo. Domingo. Charles's boy. Yes, sir. What do you want? I explained about Thanksgiving, about wanting to gather the family that had been pushed aside. He was quiet for a long time. Your father told me I was boring. Said I didn't have anything interesting to contribute anymore. That was 6 years ago. Haven't heard from him since. You're not boring. And you're invited. Will you come? His voice softened. Yeah. I'll come. Cousin Jessica was next. She was 29, living in Portland, working as a graphic designer. When I told her who I was, she was cautious. Why are you calling, Domingo? I'm hosting Thanksgiving. I want you there. Your parents made it pretty clear they don't want me around their grandkids. This isn't their Thanksgiving. It's mine. And your family. She cried too. Told me about how she'd come out 4 years ago. How my mother had said it was a phase. How my father had said she was making everything about herself. How Amanda had told her she wasn't a good influence on the kids. How she'd stopped getting calls, stopped being invited, stopped existing to them. "I'd love to come," she said. "Really. Thank you." The list grew. Great Uncle Martin, my grandfather's brother, who was 81 and living in a nursing home in Pennsylvania. I called the facility, spoke to the director, arranged for a private medical van to bring him to Montana. When I spoke to Martin on the phone, his voice was thin and shaky, but he perked up when I explained. "A family Thanksgiving? With me? With you at the head of the table if you'll have it." I'd be honored. There were others. Eric and his 2 teenage kids, Aunt Patricia's husband Tom, a second cousin named David, who'd been excluded after he declared bankruptcy, Uncle Raymond's daughter Sarah, and her husband. By the end of the week, I had 15 people confirmed, not counting myself. I arranged everything. Flights for those who needed them. The guest house had 4 bedrooms, and I had the main house too. I hired a local catering company to prepare a traditional Thanksgiving feast, but told them I wanted it to feel homemade, not stuffy. I bought decorations, planned activities, made sure there were rooms for everyone. I kept it all off social media. No posts, no hints, nothing public. This was going to be private, just for us. Then, 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, I got a message on Instagram from my niece, Haley. She was 16, Amanda's oldest daughter. I'd seen her maybe twice in the last 5 years. The message was simple. "Hey, Uncle Domingo. I miss you. Are you coming to Thanksgiving?" I stared at it for a long time before responding. "Hey, Haley. I miss you too. But no, I'm not coming. I wasn't invited." Her response came back within minutes. "What?" "Mom said you were too busy with work. She said you didn't want to come." My jaw clenched. I typed carefully. "That's not true. Your grandpa told me they were only having your family this year." I wasn't invited. The 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times. Then, "That's not what Mom told us. She said you didn't care about family anymore." I took a deep breath. "Haley, your mom hasn't been honest with you. I've always cared. But I need you to do me a favor and not mention this conversation to her yet. Can you do that?" "Okay. But Uncle Domingo, what's going on?" "I'll explain everything soon. I promise. Just trust me for now." She sent back a heart emoji, and I put my phone down. Amanda had been lying to her own daughter about me, painting me as the one who didn't care. I wondered what other lies she'd told, what other stories she'd spun to make herself look better. The rage I'd felt after talking to Eric came back, stronger now. This wasn't just about exclusion. This was about active manipulation, about rewriting reality to suit their narrative. I was more determined than ever to make this Thanksgiving perfect, to show everyone who'd been cast aside that they mattered. 5 days before Thanksgiving, everything started falling apart. Aunt Patricia called me at 8 in the morning, her voice shaking. "Domingo, I just got a call from your mother." I sat up straighter. "What did she say?" "She knows about Thanksgiving. She knows you're hosting something. She told me you're mentally unstable, that you're trying to poison everyone against the family. She said you're broke and bitter and pretending to have money you don't have." My stomach dropped. How did she find out? I don't know. But she's calling everyone. She told me the ranch is a rental, that you're making everything up because you're jealous of Amanda. I closed my eyes. Someone had talked. Someone had let it slip. "Patricia, none of that is true. I can prove it." "I believe you, honey. But some of the others are getting nervous." Uncle Raymond called me this morning asking if we should cancel. I spent the next hour on the phone. Called Raymond, called Jessica, called Eric. My mother had reached all of them with the same story. I was unstable. I was lying. I was trying to hurt the family. The ranch didn't exist. I was broke and embarrassed and lashing out. That's when I realized Haley must have accidentally mentioned something to Amanda. There was no other way my mother could have found out. I didn't blame Haley. She was 16 and probably didn't realize the consequences. I made a decision. I sent a group email to everyone I'd invited. Attached photos of the ranch, the deed with my name on it, a brief statement about selling my company. I didn't go into specifics about the money, just enough to show I wasn't lying. I explained calmly and clearly that my parents had systematically excluded anyone who didn't fit their image, and I wanted to create a space where everyone could feel valued. The responses came quickly. Patricia wrote back immediately. I knew it. I'm still coming. So is Tom. Raymond, your mother always was good at spreading stories. See you Thursday. Jessica, thank you for being honest. Can't wait. By noon, everyone had reconfirmed. If anything, my mother's attempt to sabotage the gathering had made people more determined to come. Then my phone rang. Amanda's name appeared on the screen. I hadn't spoken to her in almost 2 years. I answered, Domingo. Amanda, what the hell do you think you're doing? Her voice was shrill, angry. Hosting Thanksgiving. You're trying to destroy this family. You're turning everyone against Mom and Dad. I'm hosting the people Mom and Dad threw away. There's a difference. You lied to Haley. You told her we excluded you. I didn't lie. Dad's text was pretty clear. You're twisting everything. You've always been jealous of my life, of what I have. I kept my voice level. Why did you tell Haley I was too busy to come to Thanksgiving? Why did you tell her I didn't care about family? Silence. Then, I was protecting her. From what? The truth? From your bitterness. You left, Domingo. You chose to leave. You can't blame us for moving on. I left because there was nothing for me there. You all made that pretty clear. She started yelling then, really yelling. Called me selfish. Called me pathetic. Said I was embarrassing everyone. I let her go for maybe 30 seconds before I interrupted. Are you done? If you go through with this, there will be consequences. Dad said he's writing you out of the will. I actually laughed. I don't need his money, Amanda. That's the part you're not getting. There was a pause. I could hear her breathing. You're serious. About the ranch. About the money. Completely serious. She hung up without another word. An hour later, Brandon called. Amanda's husband, the doctor. We'd never been close, but he'd always been polite. Domingo. It's Brandon. I know. Look, I'm calling to apologize. Amanda is under a lot of stress. That's not an apology, Brandon. He sighed. You're right. I'm sorry. For all of it. The way your family has treated you. The way we've gone along with it. Then why do you go along with it? Another sigh. Longer this time. Your father invested in my medical practice 8 years ago. It's a partnership now, but he holds significant equity. If I go against the family, if I don't play by the rules, he can make my professional life very difficult. I felt a flash of sympathy. So you're trapped. That's one way to put it. You chose security over integrity. I have 3 kids, Domingo. A mortgage. Student loans I'm still paying off. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You just don't want to face the consequences of doing the right thing. He was quiet for a moment. I wish things were different. So do I. He hung up. I sat there on my porch, watching the sun set over the mountains, and felt the weight of everything pressing down. My family wasn't just difficult. They were controlling, manipulative, willing to use money and social pressure to keep everyone in line. And they'd built a system where even good people like Brandon felt trapped. But I wasn't trapped. Not anymore. And neither were the people coming to my ranch. Thursday couldn't come fast enough. Thanksgiving morning arrived cold and clear. I woke up at 5:30, made coffee, and walked through the main house one more time to make sure everything was ready. The tables were set. The catering team would arrive at 9. Guest bedrooms were prepared. The fireplace in the great room had wood stacked beside it. By 10, people started arriving. Eric came first, driving up from Denver with his 2 kids. His daughter Emma was 17. His son Lucas was 14. They stepped out of the truck and just stared at the property. "Uncle Domingo, this place is insane," Emma said. Eric hugged me. "You did good, cousin." Aunt Patricia and Tom arrived next, flying into Bozeman and renting a car for the drive. Patricia cried when she saw me, held me for a long time. "Thank you," she kept saying. "Thank you." By noon, everyone was there. Great-Uncle Martin arrived in the medical van, a nurse accompanying him. He was frail, but his eyes were bright. When he saw everyone gathered in the great room, he started crying. "I thought I'd die alone," he said. "I thought everyone had forgotten." "Never," I told him. "Your family." Jessica came with her girlfriend, a woman named Rachel. They were nervous at first, but everyone welcomed them warmly. Uncle Raymond showed up wearing a bolo tie and cowboy boots, grinning ear to ear. David, the second cousin who declared bankruptcy, brought his wife and their baby. Sarah, Raymond's daughter, brought her husband and their twin boys. The house filled with noise and laughter. Kids ran around. Adults caught up on years of lost time. The catering team brought out the feast at 2. Turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, green beans, cranberry sauce, rolls, 3 kinds of pie. It covered the long dining table I'd had custom made for the space. Before we ate, I stood up. Everyone keyed down. "I want to say something. I know a lot of you have been through hard times. You've been excluded, pushed aside, made to feel like you didn't matter. But you do matter. Every single person in this room matters. This Thanksgiving isn't just about food or tradition. It's about family, real family. The kind that shows up, the kind that sees you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. We sat down and ate. The meal was incredible. But more than that, the company was incredible. Stories flowed. Laughter echoed off the high ceilings. Great-Uncle Martin sat at the head of the table and told stories about my grandfather, about the old days. Kids played games. Adults relaxed. Around 4, someone suggested taking photos. We gathered on the front porch, the Montana mountains rising behind us. The photographer I'd hired took dozens of shots. Group photos, individual family photos, candid shots of people laughing. Great-Uncle Martin pulled me aside after. "Post these, please. I want people to see we're still here. We still matter." I looked at him, at his weathered face and determined eyes. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." So I did. I posted 6 photos to my Instagram and Facebook. The main group shot showed all 16 of us on the porch, mountains behind us, everyone smiling. The caption was simple: "Thankful for family that shows up." Within minutes, comments started appearing. Extended family members I barely knew. Old high school friends. People asking who everyone was, where this was, what was going on. The photos started getting shared. An hour later, my phone started blowing up. Messages, texts, missed calls. I ignored most of them. But then I got a voicemail from my father. His voice was shaking with rage. "You've embarrassed this family. This is unforgivable. How dare you parade those people around like they matter? How dare you make us look bad? You're done, Domingo. Done." I played it for the room. Raymond shook his head. Same old Charles. Always about appearances. Then a text came through from Haley. "My mom is freaking out. Dad's trying to calm her down. Grandma left the restaurant crying." "What did you do?" I showed the text to everyone. They're at a restaurant. For Thanksgiving. Patricia snorted. Of course they are. Susan hasn't cooked a real meal in 20 years. The evening continued. We played board games, watched football, talked. Around 7, I heard a car coming up the driveway. I looked out the window and saw a Honda Civic. My heart started pounding. The car stopped. Haley got out. I opened the door and stepped onto the porch. She was crying, mascara running down her face. Haley, what are you doing here? I left. I drove here. It's 3 hours, but I had to leave. Does your mom know where you are? I don't care. I can't stand the lies anymore, Uncle Domingo. I can't stand watching them pretend everything is fine when it's not. I was torn. She was a minor. This could cause serious problems. But she was also clearly hurting. Come inside. We'll figure this out. She met everyone, heard their stories. Aunt Patricia told her about being excluded for marrying a plumber. Jessica told her about being rejected for being gay. Great Uncle Martin told her about being forgotten in a nursing home. With each story, Haley's face grew more horrified. I didn't know, she kept saying. I didn't know any of this. She stayed for 2 hours. Before she left, she hugged me tight. Thank you for showing me the truth. I'm not going to be like them. I promise. I watched her drive away, taillights disappearing down the long driveway, and felt something settle in my chest. Maybe I'd done more than just host a Thanksgiving. Maybe I'd started something bigger. Most people stayed through the weekend. The guest house was full, and a few people were staying in the main house too. Friday morning was lazy and relaxed. We made pancakes, drank coffee, sat around in pajamas. Some of the kids played in the snow that had fallen overnight. Around 10, I was in the kitchen when Eric called out from the living room. Domingo, there's a car coming up the driveway. I looked out the window. A black Mercedes SUV. My stomach dropped. I walked outside before they could reach the house. My father got out of the driver's side. Charles, 62 years old, face red from cold or anger or both. My mother, Susan, 60, stepped out of the passenger side. She looked like she'd been crying. Domingo, Dad, Mom, you drove all the way from Ohio? We need to talk. My father's voice was hard. About what? About this. He gestured at the house, at the property. About what you're doing. I'm hosting Thanksgiving with family. Same as you. My mother stepped forward. How could you do this to us? Post those photos. Make us look terrible. I didn't make you look like anything. I just showed people having a good time. My father's face got redder. You invited people we specifically chose not to include. You went behind our backs. They're family, Dad. They're not our priority. I can see that. He stepped closer. What the hell is this place? How can you afford this? So that was it. They'd come to find out if the ranch was real. If the money was real. I bought it 6 weeks ago. Paid cash. My mother gasped. Cash? Domingo, where did you get that kind of money? I sold my company last year. They both stared at me. My father's expression went from anger to confusion to calculation in about 3 seconds. Your company. That computer thing. Yeah, there was a long silence. I could see him processing, trying to figure out the angles. Then his tone changed completely. Domingo, we should talk. As a family. Maybe we've had some misunderstandings. About Thanksgiving. About invitations. These things get confused. My mother jumped in. We never meant to exclude you, sweetheart. It's just that Amanda's family is so large now, and we thought you were busy with your work. I almost laughed. Mom. Dad sent me a text. It was pretty clear. But we can fix this, my father said quickly. We're family. Family helps each other. There it was. The real reason they'd driven all the way from Ohio. Help each other how, Dad? He glanced at my mother, then back at me. Well, the truth is, we're going through a bit of a cash flow issue right now. Nothing serious. Just some investments that didn't pan out. And that restaurant Thanksgiving was expensive. $12,000 actually. We wanted to impress Amanda's in-laws, and it worked, but now we're a bit short. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You came here to ask me for money, not ask. Family doesn't ask. Family shares resources. Like you shared resources with me? Like you included me in your lives? My mother started crying. Don't be cruel, Domingo. We gave you everything growing up. You gave me a roof. You fed me. But you never gave me support, belief, or love. There's a difference. My father's face went red again. How dare you? After everything we sacrificed. What did you sacrifice? Tell me. The argument was escalating. Voices rising. That's when the door opened behind me. Aunt Patricia stepped out. Then Uncle Raymond. Then Jessica. They'd heard everything. Great Uncle Martin came out last, moving slowly, but deliberately. He stood next to me and looked at my father. Charles, you put me in that nursing home 3 years ago. Promised you'd visit every month. You came twice. My father's face went pale. Uncle Martin, I've been busy. Too busy for a phone call. Too busy to answer when I called you. Aunt Patricia stepped forward. Charles, when I married Tom, Susan called me and said I was trash. Said I was embarrassing to the family. My mother gasped. I never said that. Yes, you did. I recorded the call. I still have it. Jessica spoke next. You told me I was going to hell. You said I couldn't see my cousins anymore because I was a bad influence. Each person shared their story. Charles and Susan were surrounded on my porch, their sins laid bare. Then I heard another car. Amanda's Range Rover came up the driveway. She and Brandon got out. Amanda looked furious. What is this? She screamed. What is happening? Your parents came to ask me for money, I said calmly. Amanda stormed up to me. You're destroying everything. This family was fine until you decided to play victim. I'm not playing anything, Amanda. Yes, you are. You're turning everyone against us. You're stealing our family. Your family? These people were thrown away. I'm just giving them a place to land. Amanda's face contorted. You've always been jealous of me. Of my life, my marriage, my kids. I'm not jealous, Amanda. I'm free. There's a difference. She kept screaming. But then Brandon put a hand on her arm. Amanda, stop. Don't tell me to stop. I mean it. Stop. There was something in his voice. Amanda looked at him. Confused, Brandon turned to my father. Charles, we need to talk about the practice. My father's face went even paler. Not now, Brandon. Yes, now. Everyone should know. Your investment in my medical practice isn't an investment. It's a high-interest loan with terms that give you control. You've been extracting money from the practice for years. That's why we've been struggling. The silence was deafening. Amanda stared at her husband. What? Your father has been bleeding my practice dry. I stayed quiet because I was afraid. But I'm done being afraid. My father tried to defend himself. That's a normal business arrangement. It's predatory. And I'm talking to a lawyer about restructuring. Amanda looked like she'd been slapped. She turned to her father. You've been hurting Brandon's business? It's complicated, Amanda. How is it complicated? You took advantage of him? Then Haley's car pulled up. She got out with her phone in her hand. I've been recording everything for the last 10 minutes, she announced. And I just sent it to the family group chat. My father lunged toward her, but I stepped between them. Touch her, and I'm calling the police. He froze. Susan started crying harder. Please, everyone, let's just calm down. But no one was calm. The truth was out. Years of manipulation, financial control, Systematic exclusion. It was all exposed, right there in my driveway. My mother made one last plea. She looked at me with tears streaming down her face. "We're your parents, Domingo. You owe us. We raised you." I took a deep breath. This was the moment. The moment I'd been building toward without even realizing it. "No," I said. "You housed me. You fed me. But you also belittled me. You dismissed my dreams. You compared me to Amanda my whole life. You made me feel worthless. You taught me my value was in how I made you look. You cut me out the second I stopped playing your game. And now you want my money?" The answer is no. I want you to leave my property. If you don't, I'll have you removed for trespassing. My father's face turned purple. "You're out of the will. You're dead to me." "I was already dead to you, Dad. Now it's just official." My mother collapsed dramatically onto the porch steps. No one moved to help her except my father. They realized their manipulation didn't work anymore. The audience had turned against them. Charles helped Susan to her feet. They walked to their car. Amanda watched them go, then looked around at everyone gathered there. At the family she'd helped exclude. At her daughter holding a phone with evidence of everything. At her husband, who'd finally found his spine. She didn't follow her parents. Instead, she sat down on the porch steps and started crying, not manipulative tears. Real, broken sobs. "I don't know who I am without pleasing them," she said to no one in particular. Brandon sat next to her and put his arm around her shoulders. The gathered family was silent, uncertain what to do with this moment. I felt no satisfaction, just exhaustion. This wasn't a victory. It was just the truth finally coming out. And truth is messy and painful and doesn't feel like winning. The tension on the porch was suffocating. My parents' car sat in the driveway, engine off, but they hadn't left. Charles was on his phone, pacing near the vehicle. Susan sat in the passenger seat, still crying. Amanda remained on the porch steps, head in her hands. Brandon stood near her, looking lost. Haley stood by the railing, phone still in her hand, watching everything like she couldn't quite believe it was real. The rest of us just waited. Great Uncle Martin had gone inside to rest. The others stood in a loose semicircle, witnesses to whatever was about to happen next. My father ended his call and walked back toward us. His face had changed from angry red to something colder, more calculated. "I need to speak with Domingo." "Alone." "No," Raymond said immediately. "Whatever you have to say, you can say in front of all of us." Charles ignored him, looking only at me. "Domingo, I'm asking you one more time. Man to man, father to son. We need $200,000. Immediately." The number hit like a physical blow. 200,000. For what? I asked. Does it matter? We're family. You help family. It matters to me. He took a breath, clearly trying to control himself. Fine. We refinanced the house 2 years ago. Took out equity to invest in what we thought was a sure thing. It wasn't. The payments are coming due. If we don't pay, we lose the house. My mother had gotten out of the car now, standing behind him. "We'll be homeless, Domingo. Your mother will be homeless. Is that what you want?" I felt the old guilt trying to creep in. The programming from childhood. Take care of your parents. Respect your elders. Family first. But then Uncle Raymond stepped forward. "Charles, do you remember 20 years ago, when you borrowed $50,000 from me?" My father's face twitched. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. You said it was for a business opportunity. Said you'd pay me back in a year with interest. I never saw a penny. When I asked about it 2 years later, you called me a liar. Said I was making it up." Charles shook his head. "That's not how I remember it. I have the check. I kept it all these years. $50,000. Your signature on the back." Aunt Patricia spoke next. "He did the same thing to me. Borrowed $30,000. Said it was for Amanda's wedding. Never paid it back. When I brought it up, He said I'd given it as a gift. Jessica added, he promised to pay for my college. I got accepted to a great school. 3 weeks before classes started, he backed out. Said priorities had changed. That's when Amanda was renovating her kitchen. I ended up at community college and worked 3 jobs to transfer later. The stories kept coming. David, the cousin who'd declared bankruptcy, revealed that Charles had convinced him to invest in a scheme that went bust. You knew it was risky. You didn't tell me. When I lost everything, you said I should have known better. Sarah, Raymond's daughter, told us Charles had borrowed money from her mother before she died. Mom forgave the debt on her deathbed. Made me promise not to pursue it. She said family was more important than money. But you never even came to her funeral. Each revelation was a hammer blow. My father tried to deny them, but the evidence was overwhelming. He was a pattern. He'd been using family members financially for decades, then discarding them when they couldn't be useful anymore. I looked at him, this man who'd raised me, and saw a stranger. How much did you take? From everyone combined? Raymond did the math out loud. By my count, at least $300,000. Probably more. My father's face was ashen now. Those were loans. Business deals. They don't count. They count to us. Patricia said quietly. Then Brandon spoke again. His voice was steady, but you could hear the anger underneath. The practice thing isn't just about control. You've been taking $70,000 a year from my practice. That's been going on for 6 years. $420,000 total. You said it was return on investment, but the paperwork shows you only invested $150,000 initially. Amanda gasped. $420,000? Brandon, why didn't you tell me? Because I was ashamed. Because I let it happen. Because I was afraid of what your father would do if I fought back. Haley was still recording. She'd been recording this whole time. I could see her hands shaking. But she kept the phone steady. Stop recording, my father demanded. No. Haley said. Everyone needs to see this. Everyone needs to know the truth. Charles took a step toward her. I moved faster, putting myself between them again. Don't even think about it. That's my granddaughter. I have rights. You have no rights on my property. And if you touch her, I'm calling the sheriff. The threat of law enforcement seemed to penetrate his rage. He stepped back. My mother tried a different approach. She walked toward me, hands outstretched, playing the fragile victim. Domingo, please. I know your father has made mistakes, but I'm your mother. You can't let me lose my home. I have nowhere else to go. You have Amanda. Amanda's house isn't big enough for all of us. Then downsize. Sell the house. Buy something smaller. People do it every day. We can't. The neighborhood. Our friends. Our reputation. There it was. Not about having shelter. About maintaining appearances. Your reputation isn't my responsibility, Mom. She started crying again, but this time it felt performative. She collapsed against my father, who held her up. Please, she sobbed. Please help us. I looked at them both. These people who'd shaped my entire childhood, who'd made me believe my worth was conditional, who'd taught me that love came with strings and expectations. No, I said clearly. I'm not giving you money. Not $200,000. Not $2,000. Not 20. You've spent decades using people, taking from them, manipulating them. That ends now. You're condemning us, my father said. I'm setting a boundary. There's a difference. You can sell the house. You can downsize. You can adjust your lifestyle. Those are all options. What you can't do is continue to bleed the people around you dry. Amanda stood up from the steps. She looked at our parents, then at me, then at her daughter. I could see something breaking in her, some fundamental understanding of who she'd been and who she'd become. Dad, she said quietly. Mom, we need to leave. Amanda, don't you dare side with him, Susan said. I'm not siding with anyone. But Haley recorded everything. Uncle Raymond has proof. Aunt Patricia has proof. Brandon has documentation. This is going to come out. All of it. And if we stay here, it's going to get worse. Charles looked betrayed. You're our daughter, and I've been protecting you my whole life. Lying for you. Excluding people for you. Making excuses for you. I'm done. The words hung in the cold Montana air. My mother started crying again, harder this time. My father's face cycled through emotions so fast I couldn't track them all. Anger, betrayal, fear, desperation. If you do this, he said to me, you're out, completely out. No will, no inheritance, no family. Good, I said. I don't want anything from you. Not your money, not your approval, not your version of family. I'm building something different here. Something real. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he turned and walked to the car. Susan followed, still sobbing. They got in. The engine started. Before they pulled away, my father rolled down the window. This isn't over. Yes, it is. They drove down the long driveway and disappeared. The silence after they left was absolute. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. We all just stood there, processing what had happened. Then Haley started shaking. Really shaking. Rachel, Jessica's girlfriend, moved toward her and gently took the phone from her hands. You're okay. You're safe. You did the right thing. Amanda walked over to her daughter and pulled her into a hug. Both of them were crying. Brandon joined them, wrapping his arms around both. They stood there, a small family unit, broken but maybe starting to heal. Great Uncle Martin came back outside, moving slowly. Did they leave? They left, I confirmed. He nodded. Good. Now we can have dessert. The absurdity of it broke the tension. Someone laughed. Then someone else. Soon we were all heading back inside, leaving the trauma of the confrontation outside in the cold. Amanda, Brandon, and Haley came with us. They stayed for the rest of the day. Amanda had long, painful conversations with Patricia, with Jessica, with Raymond. She apologized. It was awkward and incomplete and insufficient, but it was a start. Before they left that evening, Amanda hugged me. I don't know how to fix what I've done. You can't fix it. You can only do better going forward. I want to try. Then, try. They drove away as the sun set. The rest of us stayed up late, sitting around the fire, processing everything. The confrontation had been brutal, but necessary. The truth was out. The patterns were exposed, and we were still standing. The rest of the weekend passed in a blur of conversations, healing, and connection. People shared stories I'd never heard. Great Uncle Martin talked about my grandfather, about family history that went back generations. Patricia showed us photos she'd kept from before the split, reminders of what family used to look like. On Sunday morning, as people prepared to leave, we gathered in the living room one more time. Raymond stood up, clearing his throat. I think we should make this annual. This gathering. Make it official. Everyone agreed immediately. We exchanged contact information, created a group text thread, promised to stay in touch. The Outcasts' Thanksgiving, someone jokingly called it. And the name stuck. Great Uncle Martin pulled me aside before his medical transport arrived. Will you come visit me? At the facility? Once a month, I promised. Every month. I'll be there. Tears filled his eyes. You gave me my family back. I'll never forget that. Each person left with similar gratitude. Jessica and Rachel were the last to go. And Jessica hugged me for a long time. You changed my life, she whispered. By Sunday evening, the ranch was quiet again. Just me and the mountains and the fading light. I sat on the porch where this had all started, where I'd received that text from my father 3 weeks ago. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I opened it. It was from my father. A long message. I started reading, but within 2 sentences I could see the pattern. He was apologizing, sort of. But the language was careful, self-serving. He was sorry for any misunderstandings, and hoped we could talk when emotions had settled. He wanted another chance to explain his side, still manipulating, still playing games. I deleted the message without finishing it. Then I blocked the number. Another text came through from my mother. Similar tone. She was worried about me and wanted to fix things and hoped I would come to my senses. More manipulation. More guilt. More of the same patterns. I blocked her number too. Then a text from Haley. Thank you for being the adult they never were. I'm going to be different. Love you. Uncle Domingo. That message I saved. The next few weeks were strange. Word spread through the extended family about what had happened. Some people reached out to support me. Others stayed silent, probably unsure which side to take. A few defended my parents, saying I was being harsh. I didn't engage. I'd said what I needed to say. The rest was up to them. Then, 3 weeks after Thanksgiving, I received an email from a law firm representing my parents. They were threatening to sue me for defamation and elder abuse. The attorney asked if I wanted to retain counsel and fight it. I forwarded Haley's video to my lawyer, sent documentation of every conversation, every text, every interaction. Raymond sent his records. Patricia sent hers. Brandon provided documentation of the practice arrangement. My attorney reviewed everything and sent a response. If my parents proceeded with the lawsuit, we would countersue for harassment and present all evidence in open court. The lawsuit was quietly dropped within a week. Life slowly returned to normal. I worked on the ranch, started buying horses like I'd planned. Hired a ranch manager to help maintain the property. I visited Great Uncle Martin once a month like I'd promised. We'd sit in the common room of his facility and talk for hours. The group text thread stayed active. People shared photos, updates, small moments of their lives. We were building something new, something healthier. Amanda and I texted occasionally. Short messages. She was in therapy, working through decades of conditioning. Brandon had successfully restructured his practice and cut my father out financially. They were struggling, but healing. Haley had started seeing a counselor too, processing everything she'd learned. Winter turned to spring. I hosted another gathering in March, smaller this time, just family in the area. Then summer came, and I sent out invitations for a June reunion at the ranch. 15 people came back. Some brought partners or friends this time. The dynamics were different, lighter. We weren't gathering in response to trauma anymore. We were gathering because we wanted to. Amanda and Brandon came with all 3 kids. Haley had changed, grown more confident. She talked about applying to colleges, about wanting to study social work, about breaking the cycle. We took another group photo on the porch. The mountains behind us, the ranch spread out below. Great Uncle Martin was there, looking healthier than he had at Thanksgiving. Regular family contact had done wonders for his spirits. As everyone gathered for the photo, I looked around at these faces. People who'd been cast aside, forgotten, deemed not good enough. They were laughing, connecting, supporting each other. We'd built something real. The photographer counted down. 3, 2, 1. The shutter clicked. Later that evening, I posted the photo with the caption, 6 months later, still thankful. This time, my parents didn't respond. I didn't expect them to. They'd moved to a smaller house in a different neighborhood, Amanda told me. They were struggling financially but refusing help, still maintaining the appearance that everything was fine, even though everyone knew the truth. I felt something like pity for them, but also peace. I'd set boundaries. I'd built something better. I'd shown everyone who'd been excluded that they mattered. That night, as the sun set over the Montana mountains, I sat on my porch and thought about the text that started everything. "We're only having your sister's family this year." I smiled. Because I'd built my own family, a chosen family, a real family, and I was finally, truly home. Family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about who shows up, who sees you, who values you. Sometimes the family you choose is more real than the family you're born into. And sometimes, the greatest act of love is setting boundaries and refusing to accept less than you deserve. I learned that rejection isn't always a loss. Sometimes it's a gift that sets you free to find the people who truly want you at their table. What about you? Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who didn't value you? Have you found your chosen family? The people who show up when it matters? I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. If this story touched you, please hit that like button. It helps others find these stories. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories about family, relationships, and finding your way through difficult situations. Share this with someone who might need to hear it, someone who's struggling with family dynamics or trying to figure out where they belong. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope you found something meaningful in it, something that resonated with your own experiences. Remember, you deserve people who celebrate you, not just tolerate you. You deserve a seat at a table where you're truly wanted. Until next time, take care of yourselves, value the people who value you, and never be afraid to build the life and family you actually want. You're worth it.